Hey everybody, Craig Howie here of Howie Guitars, and today I want to share some ideas with you about pickup height. I'm going to use humbuckers as an example here, and I have one of our Howie Escape guitars to use as an example. There's a lot of little things you can do with how high your pickups are that will actually change your sound quite a bit. So I want to share that with you and show you how to adjust it. Here we go. So pickup height is generally the distance between the top of the pickup and the bottom of the string. In the case of humbuckers, I like to measure from the pull pieces, or where the screws are, to the top of the string. If you want to get a very precise measurement, what you're going to want to do is hold down the string at the last fret and use some kind of precise measuring device like a string action gauge like I have here, and find that exact distance. Now, how do we know what the perfect distance is? That's up for a lot of debate, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But first of all, how do we adjust this height? Every pickup configuration is a little bit different, but in general, humbuckers have this ring that holds them in place, and then underneath you're going to have these springs that go through the screw on each side. Whereas if you loosen the tension on that spring, it will allow the humbucker to drop down, as you see that side dropping down there, or if I tighten it, it'll bring the humbucker back up. So that's how we're going to adjust the height on either side of the humbucker. Then you've got some fine tuning you can do with the pull pieces. If you loosen them, they'll stick up more, or if you tighten them, they'll go down more. So we might want to do some adjustment there, as I'll show you here in a second. Okay, so we know what pickup height is and how to adjust it, but how do we know what the correct height is? And the answer is we don't. Every single player is going to be different in this regard. There are some extremes, of course. You don't want to be too low or too high, and I'll explain that in a second. But in general, what you need to do is adjust it to what you want. It depends on where you put your hand. It depends on what kind of tone you're after. It depends on how hard you pick. There's so many variables. So what I'm going to do is give you some general guidelines. Okay, the first guideline is to avoid the extremes. If we take our pickups way too low, they're going to be really muddy, and we're not going to get very much sound out of them. They're going to be weak, they're going to be unreliable. So if we drop them down way too low, they're going to be muddy and unreliable. If we get them too close, they can actually start to pull the string out of tune, because remember that a pickup has a big set of magnets in there, and the magnets can actually pull the strings down, and you can get kind of a warbling sound out of it. So you don't want to get too close that they pull them out of tune. Also, if you get too close when you're playing these high frets, you'll actually hit the pickup with the string and it'll cause the string to buzz out. So you want to avoid the extremes. The second guideline is to consider tone when you're adjusting the height of the pickup. The closer you get to the strings, in other words, the higher you take the pickup up, the more treble sound you're going to get out of that pickup. As it gets closer, it's going to have more presence, be more trebly. And the lower you go, the more the tone will be muted a little bit more muddy sounding. So that can be your guide as far as tone goes. The third guideline is to consider the radius that you're dealing with your guitar. As you can see with this bridge, there's a radius on it. In this case, it's a 12-inch radius. So when you adjust the height of the outsides of your pickups, you might have those outside strings dialed in, but the middle strings might be lower than the outside strings. So in that case, that's when you're going to want to adjust the pull pieces to move them up and down to get them to be the same height as the outside strings. Finally, the fourth guideline is to make your adjustments in the playing position. That way the strings will be exactly how they will be when you're playing, because gravity plays a role when the guitar is laying flat. And you can make the adjustments in real time, play it a little bit, listen to it, listen for that tone that you want, and just keep going back and forth with a guess and check method until you have the sound that you want. Hope this helps. Hope you liked the video. If you have any questions about this guitar or Howie guitars in general, please get a hold of me at the address below there, and thanks a lot for watching the video.